Economic growth projections for developing economies have continued to pour in. This time, the World Bank cuts Nigeria's growth forecast to 2.1% for 2019, and this is slightly lower than the 2.2% it had earlier predicted for the country this year. Earlier, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, predicted against the backdrop of the recent slide in global crude oil prices, saying Nigeria's economy would expand more slowly in 2019. Now, the World Bank has anticipated growth forecast for Nigeria by 2.2%, while South Africa is to raise 1.5%, and Angola to stand at 2.9%, developing and emerging economies at 4.6%, and while Nigeria stands at 2.2%. The bank says growth is constrained by sluggish investment risk from rising trade barriers, renewed financial stress, and sharper than expected slowdowns in several major economies. Now, the president of the World Bank Group, David Malpass, says stronger economic growth is needed to reduce poverty and improving living standards. That's David Malpass, president, World Bank Group. He stated that the current economic momentum remains weak, while huge debt levels and subdued investment growth in developing economies are holding them from achieving steady growth. He therefore called on countries to make important structural reforms to improve the business climate and attract more investments. To discuss this, the former Director General of Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Chijioke Ikechukwu, joins me now to shed more light on all of this forecast from the World Bank. Thank you very much for joining us at this time.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, first and foremost, I would like you to react to the first projection was 2.2%. Now, World Bank is coming to say Nigeria's growth for 2019 will stay around 2.1%. What do you make of these figures?
Yeah, it's expected that they made the projections they made because you know that the population of Nigeria is growing at a rate of about 2.7%. And the economic growth of Nigeria is growing at 2.1. When this happens, you expect that over a period of the remaining part of this year, we're going to be expecting more and more poverty around the populace of Nigeria. You also know that most of our agricultural produce have reduced in their production or productivity just because of insecurity in the farmlands and change of climate. And so even the growth level we expected to grow in agricultural sector, we are not likely to have that coming up within this period. But to say the least, you know the impact insecurity is causing in this economy today. A lot of farmers can't go to their farms anymore. People can't even move goods and services, goods from one part of the country to another because on the road they will be attacked and they'll be kidnapped. So people are restricting their businesses within the locality they find themselves. And so these are the things that actually led the World Bank to predict that our growth level is going to just be about 2.1. Unfortunately, you see that the countries with good resources, oil resources like Nigeria, Angola, and of course the other minerals like South Africa, are expected to grow at a very slow rate, while other countries without all these natural resources are going to grow more. What that tells us is that we are having a disadvantage being a resource-blessed country, because people have relied so much on the resources we have and have played low on other resources that are existing. So what we need to do right now is just to ensure that our non-oil sector will continue to grow and our agricultural sector will continue to grow. Our other resources, like the solid minerals, will have to be decisive on what we want to do with our solid mineral sector.
Now, Dr. Chijioke, let me come in here before you move on to what we are supposed to do. I wonder that countries like Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Tanzania, Rwanda, Ghana are doing very well. What are these countries doing that you think Nigeria is not doing at this time?
When you look at the figures of their foreign direct investment, you will see that Ghana has overtaken Nigeria. And this is a situation that we couldn't have imagined in the last 5 years or thereabout. So what is going on in all those countries is that they are concentrating on a whole lot of other resources that they have. Agriculture. They are concentrating on the agricultural sector. They are also making sure that inflow of currencies are coming into their country because there is an enabling environment for foreign direct investors in the country. And so, with all these things happening, we expect that these countries are going to continue growing, and there are no wars, there are no insecurities in all those countries. You know, so these are the things affecting Nigeria, and that is where we have to address ourselves very, very accurately.
Doc, let's also touch on the trade war. Many say that the effect of this trade war is something that will also impact negatively on countries like Nigeria in the long run. I don't know, are we taking advantage of this, or we are just folding our hands and watching as everything goes on, plays on the way it's going?
We know that the trade war is going to affect countries of the world, not just Nigeria. So if we are in Nigeria and it's not affecting a country like Ghana, it's not affecting a country like Guinea-Bissau or Burkina Faso, why will it affect us for now? We know that the trade war between China and America will affect markets and economies in the world, but right now the effect is not being felt, and we don't expect the effect to happen even before the end of the year. So sometime next year, yes, the effect may be felt, but not now. The things that are affecting us are things that I've mentioned, and these are things we have to take very seriously to ensure our economy grows, even beyond what we are doing right now. Unfortunately, our budget for 2019 has been premised on growth level of 3%. Right now, we are doing far, far less than that. And so for us to even achieve the remaining part of that in the remaining part of the year, we have to go on a run rate that is even more than 3%. But from what we are seeing, that doesn't look achievable right now.
Okay, now, Doc, there's also this argument that they say that Nigeria needs structural reforms that would help rearrange the business climate and attract investments. How well are we doing this? We know of PEBEC. PEBEC has been talking about ease of doing business. And many have said that a lot of positives have come out of this. Let's analyze this and look at how we can make this environment more friendly for investment.
A lot of positive things have come out of ERGP, but we still think implementation and enforcement are not right yet. The climate for doing business in Nigeria is still not very welcome. Because if we're talking about climate, we're talking about taxation, we're talking about property rights. So today, if you want to acquire a property and you want to change the deed you want to assign the deed to somebody else, you will know how long it will take you, probably a year or plus. And they will take monies from you to get that done. We know for you to do certain things like that, you have to pay certain monies to some individuals as gratification. We also know that insecurity is major reason why the infrastructural differences they are talking about. So we need to restructure a whole lot of things to be able to get certain benefits of what World Bank is talking about.
All right, Doctor, let's also touch on issues around regulatory control, corruption. You've touched on insecurity and, very importantly, the effect that is having even on our agricultural sector. Now, let's look at regulatory issues. How well are we managing it? Remember the issues around MTN lately. All of this, many say, could also scare investors away from coming into Africa's most populous nation.
Most of the things we expect to achieve, we're still just reading them on the papers as the proposals of ERGP. When we take parastatals, regulatory parastatals, one after the other, you will see that most of them are still making investment in Nigeria very difficult. Now, I usually don't like talking about some other countries when I'm comparing Nigeria with some other countries. But when you look at the figures of foreign direct investments in a country like Ghana, for example, and you visit Ghana, you will see absolute peace. And you will see the number of foreigners that are in various hotels coming into that country to do business. And you see on your own the kind of businesses that are springing up here and there in that particular country. So when we're talking about regulatory bodies, you tell a Nigerian to open a business concern right now. The day he puts a signboard, you will see all the regulatory bodies coming. You will see FIRS come for company income tax. You will see the payee come from the same people. Sometimes the two bodies will even want to be examining you the same day. You will see institutions of different environmental, various organizations come in the same time as if they are not happy to see you open your windows and your doors to business. So we need to cool down with all these institutions trying to regulate businesses in Nigeria and allow people to have some peace, relative peace when they want to do business, so that businesses can start springing up and people can have peace doing business in Nigeria.
Very interesting. And finally, before I let you go, you touched on non-oil, and because we need to obviously generate money more from the non-oil sector, looking away from crude. With all of this that is happening, the price of crude has been fluctuating. Now, with the economic recovery and growth plan and all of the challenges we face, do you see our non-oil sector giving us the required funds that we need to even support the 2019 budget?
Yeah. What we need to do is just to look at various areas to generate our revenue base. Actually, the problem our budget has today is just the revenue base that is very lean. We are not making any revenue from the maritime sector. We are not making revenue from the solid mineral sector. I know individuals are making revenues, but not the federal government. You won't believe that there was a particular exhibition went outside this country. It was an exhibition for gemstones. And the people there said that 60% of the gemstones they were exhibiting came from Nigeria. I said, which Nigeria? The Nigeria we came from? So you see that individuals are making these monies, but the country is not making the money. And it is like that in many other places. We shouldn't just rely on only FIRS to make the money. The pressure is already on the people doing business, so we have to look for other revenue base to generate more revenue for Nigeria so that we'll borrow less and so that our GDP rates can also grow.
Former Director General, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Chijioke Ikechukwu, thank you very much for your time indeed.